Tyler Stevenson may not have hit 40 home runs in 2024, but he did cement himself as the Reds' #1 catcher. We're going to look back at his 2024 season and tell you what to expect from the catcher in 2025 on today's Locked On Reds.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Reds. My name is Jeff Carr, and I'm glad that you're alongside me and my co-host, Stephen Offenbaker, here today, because we are lifelong Cincinnati Reds fans, and we've been podcasting about this team for the better part of, combined 12 years, going on a lot more than that. We love these Cincinnati Reds, and we want to bring them to you every single day, because Locked On Reds is for the Reds fan who knows what happened. They want to know why, and we're going to talk about these Reds all throughout the offseason leading up to 2025 as we get set for what should be a playoff season. But looking back at 2024, there were some key things, and Tyler Stevenson was one of those big key things because he is catcher #1. We're going to look at his performance, why it matters, where does he fall next year in the lineup, and should he get a contract extension right now? The answer is yes, but what does it look like? And we'll also debate whether he has been the best catcher not named Johnny Bench in the last 40 years, whatever. Counting time is hard. Also, the whole catching depth, the catching platoon, whatever it is we decided to call that needs to be revisited. We'll tell you why coming up later on in today's show. This episode is, of course, brought to you by Prize Picks. Download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONMLB to win $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. And where we're going to begin today is with Tyler Stevenson and his breakout in 2024, because quite frankly, Steve, after 2023, there was a lot of doubters. In the winter, we heard all about it. Is Tyler Stevenson the best catcher on this roster? He showed why. There's no argument to that
Absolutely. Point. I remember a bunch of people in the comment section talking about how maybe Luke Maile should be the starter. And I think each and every one of you need to own that and apologize to Tyler Stevenson, because he delivered in a big way in 2024. His 2023 season, it was an outlier, I think, Jeff, for a lot of reasons, most notably because he was coming off of that clavicle injury that I think was still bothering him more so than he ever really let on. So, Tyler did some things. Now, I was the one that got excited and said he could hit 40 home runs in a season, and he may get up past 20. He may get 25. I don't know, 40 might have been a little ambitious on my part, but he started to show some power this year in the way that we thought he could. He started to perform as a hitter the way that we thought he could. And he improved his defense and became a better catcher behind the plate. And he did all of those things in the same season, which I think really did cement him as catcher #1 for the Reds. And as we'll get into in a little while, that's good, because there's really nobody else in the entire system that's, old enough to buy alcohol that could come up here and do anything. So right. I was happy to see Tyler turning around, and there were times he looked very, very, very good for the Reds in 2024.
Yeah, we're definitely still a few years away from talking about whoever the next catcher is, but I find it interesting that the power you were kind of talking about, it was something that we had thought about, hoped about, dreamt about a little bit in 2022, and then he got hurt with the collarbone, and we only saw 50 games of him. And in those 50 games, he did some amazing things with the bat. So then in 2023, his expectations were through the roof. And not only did he miss those expectations, he missed even the lowest expectations of him. And so because of that, everybody just had this feeling, this worry. I saw people making claims that Tyler Stevenson wouldn't be on this roster by the end of 2024 and things like that. And he couldn't have proved them any more wrong. I mean, even at the beginning of last year, and Fangraphs didn't predict that, but Fangraphs Zips projection system had Tyler Stevenson at 1.8 wins above replacement for the year. That's what they projected him to do in 2024. He got 3 wins above replacement according to Fangraphs. So it vastly outperformed his projections, but even more so than that, he vastly outperformed 2023 where he had negative WAR. I mean, that's a huge difference, and we can thankfully definitively say that 2023 is the outlier for him.
Yeah, he was 15% below league average in 2023 if you look at his OPS plus, Jeff. And there were a perfect storm of factors lined up against him. Coming off the clavicle, which I wish he would just come out now and say, yeah, by the way, I was hurt all in 2023. Something, just kind of put that out there because I really believe it to be true. The other piece of that is, if you remember, that season started with the grandiose plan of he's going to play first base. He's going to move all over. We might look at him in left field again.
Swiss Army Stephenson. Left
we might
field.
have to pitch if we want him. All the things David Bell was saying that thankfully were abandoned somewhere along the way. But I really think that impacted his performance as well. When he was just left to focus on being a catcher and focus on improving his craft at that position, you see the results. He got better defensively. He got better offensively. His OPS plus jumped from 15% below league average to 12% above league average. And for those of you keeping score at home, that's a 27% jump. Jeff, I know they didn't teach math at Alabama Huntsville South, but I got you. I got you covered. That's the number, 27%. So that's a big jump. That is a big improvement year over year. And I don't think he peaked, by the way. That 112 OPS plus, the numbers that we saw from him, the 19 home runs, the batting average at 258, all those I think can go up. His on base percentage was 338 last season, Jeff, slugging for 444. I think both of those numbers can go up a little bit. I think there's a little room in both the on base percentage and the slugging percentage to go up. I think he's primed for 2025 to be a big deal of a year for him, an all-star possibly kind of year for catcher number 1 in Cincinnati.
Maybe an early bold prediction there, but
I'm towing up against the line of bold hot fire take prediction, right?
Well, and to be honest with you, when you look at the numbers, when you look at the trends with Tyler Stevenson over the course of his career, 2024 was actually the year that he had his lowest batting average on balls in play. And what that means is the balls that he was able to hit in fair territory, he actually got less lucky in 2024 than he has in any other season. And yet this is the year where he cemented himself in our minds. And you mentioned earlier the 25 home runs, and you think that he could do that. We were talking before we hit record about Devin Mesoraco and how there was a year where Devin Mesoraco hit 25 home runs. Tyler Stevenson's a better hitter than Devin Mesoraco ever was. So I firmly believe that Tyler Stevenson could hit that number. He's got the power to do that. But the question is, what of it? Where does it fit in the lineup? And I've got a thought that I believe, based on what you were saying, I'm on board with we haven't seen his best just yet. And I think by the end of next season, he's going to prove to us something that we thought 2 years ago. We'll talk about that coming up next.
Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 back in bonus bets if you win. That's right. If you listen to Jeff Carr and you take the over and he's right and you're right, that's 150 bonus bet bucks in your account. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need in the place live bets on NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place the bets. Just visit FanDuel.com and join today. And while you're there, you can look at next year's World Series odds. The Reds are 60-1 odds to win the 2025 World Series. You might want to throw a little something at that because Tito Francona has a little something to say about that. Just saying, it might be good to get in on that now before the Reds begin their off-season shopping spree. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets back if your first bet of $5 or more wins. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the National Football League.
We're talking Reds here today, all day, every week, every month, all year long. Make sure that you subscribe to get at least 30 minutes of Reds talk in your feed every single day. And Steve, what we're talking about today is Tyler Stevenson. We kind of mentioned how he really broke out in 2024, really proved all of the naysayers wrong after a lackluster 2023. But where does that leave him coming into next year? Because I believe, and I kind of want there to be somebody else brought in that gets the cleanup hitter spot, but I believe by the end of 2025, we could be talking about cleanup hitter production from Tyler Stevenson.
Okay. I hope there's somebody else that can be the cleanup hitter. I would love for this to be CES. I would love for it to be Mr. Outside Hire, right-handed outfield bat type of guy. But I mean, I'll take 2,500. I'll take 25 home runs or more.
I'll take 2,500 home runs.
Yeah, 25 home runs or more from the cleanup position. I think for the best version of Tyler Stevenson to present himself on the field, I'd like to see him down batting 6 or 7. And that's not to say that he can't perform like a number 4 guy. But I mean, if this team's serious about being a playoff team in 2025, they've gone out and made that outside hire. They've gone out and got us that outfielder, and that outfielder should be the cleanup hitter. I don't see any way around. If they get the outfielder this team really needs, that guy should have cleanup hitter tattooed on his forehead. That really needs to be how that guy plays. So, but if they don't do that, Jeff, then it's anybody's spot to hit in, and why not Tyler Stevenson? The numbers that we saw from him last season, what I think we'll see from him next year, he could bat fourth. I hope that he doesn't need to bat fourth. I would much rather see him lower in the lineup.
And that's kind of why I hedged my take just a little bit by saying we'll see cleanup hitter production out of him, because I'm with you. I want them to go get a cleanup hitter. I don't think that Tyler Stevenson is there right now. I think he will get there eventually. Like I mentioned, the BABIP, he was showing so much, so good a quality of contact last season. There was a lot of high exit velocities, a lot of, barreling up the baseball, sweet spots getting hit, things like that. The kind of stuff that we look at on Baseball Savant that tells us that a hitter, at least in the periphery, is about to break out. I said it all season long, and he did. And he got there. He could have gone even further than what he did in 2024, but I was really happy to see what he did at the plate. And the other part of this, and we didn't even touch this earlier, is defensively he took a step forward. Now, I would like to see him be a little bit better at throwing guys out. The running game is still something that he's not completely comfortable controlling, but his framing was a far cry better from what it was in 2023. We talked about the big jump in OPS plus. He had a big jump in framing as well. He was one of the worst framing catchers in 2023. In 2024, he was right around league average, which, although that doesn't sound as sexy as, he was the best, he wasn't the worst. And that is a huge jump for where he was a year ago.
Yeah, I don't know that he's ever going to be named when we talk about catchers possibly winning the Gold Glove. I don't know that Tyler Stevenson is going to be in that conversation, but he can be better than average back there. And you talk about throwing out base runners. Everybody is struggling to throw out base runners because of the new rules. Major League Baseball has stacked the deck against catchers. The bases are bigger. It makes them closer together. Pitchers can't throw over more than a couple times. All of these things combine for runners to be a little bit more cocky and to have a little bit more of an advantage. So, he's not going to have a success rate like you would have seen 4 or 5 years ago from a catcher, but But you're not wrong in his framing. He's talked about it. I heard him talk about it on Jim Day's podcast. I've heard him talk about it in some post games along the way last season. This is something that he put a concentrated effort into being better at. He looked at the numbers of what everybody else was doing. He looked where he rated amongst catchers and realized there needed to be a change. He needed to get better. And he set his mind to it and he did it. And that's also that same work ethic, that same recognition is what gives me hope for him offensively heading into 2025,
Yes.
because I think he's going to continue to work and build upon the things and grow his game. That's why last segment there I said we haven't seen him top out. I don't believe he's anywhere near topping out yet. So I look forward to what version of him hits the field. Obviously we say this every time we talk about any of this stuff, we're assuming health, we're assuming all of the things, but
Right.
from what I saw from him, he's still got an upward climb, and that leads us to a natural inclusion of him in a conversation that you and I have been having, which is who is the next Red that should get an extension from this team?
It's got
Because
to be him.
you look around the room and I think you're right. It's got to be him for a lot of reasons. Now I can already, I'm anticipating the comment section. There's going to be the gang that's like, it's got to be Ellie right now. It takes two to tango, and Ellie is represented by Scott Boras, who says no. Also,
he says they ain't tangoing.
that's right. Also, you have to look at if you've got one extension to give this offseason, and the Reds haven't said that, but that's what they did with Hunter. If they do an extension of one of the young guys, it's time to get Tyler Stevenson locked up. He'll be a free agent heading into the 2027 season. End of 2026, he becomes a free agent. That puts his trade window alive in our reckoning, and what Nick Kral's kind of told us. 2 years of team control starts to put you in a trade window. I would like to see the Reds get him a 3 or 4 year deal. They have guaranteed money on the table now. They don't have to worry about what the arbitration is going to do. They don't have to go through the process of alienating Tyler Stevenson with arbitration hearings, and you buy an extra year or two. And what that does is gives you time to either draft another catcher, get another catcher, or let Mr. Duno, who is age 19, he's the guy I was joking about that can't buy beer yet. That would give you some time to get him up here. If he continues to progress like he has, and then have an overlap year, much like we saw with Tucker Barnhart and Tyler Stevenson, where one can learn from the other and there's a bit of an overlap and all of the pressure is not on Duno right away. That's how I would like to see it play out. That for me, I think with what the Reds have in the system for catchers right now, that's the best case scenario, is to lock Stevenson up for about 4 years and give yourself some time to rectify the shortage you have coming up behind him.
And they would be, trying to think of a nice word, silly. We'll go with silly. They would be silly to not sign him for a long-term
It's a family
contract.
show. It's a family show, Jeff.
Yes, they would be silly to not do that, because they don't have, like we mentioned, Duno is the best. Alfredo Duno is the best catcher in this organization. There's nobody else. Matt Nelson, Logan Tanner, my guy that I was really excited about a couple of years ago, Daniel Veoheen. None of them are showing that they can make it to the major league level. So with that, if you don't keep Tyler Stevenson, then you got to go sign somebody else. And the going rate for a free agent catcher that can be your catcher number one is more than what they're going to spend on Tyler Stevenson. And that's not a slight, and that's not me rooting for the Reds to not spend money. That's just facts. And this is how the Reds are supposed to be able to build a team, from within. So he's got to be the next guy. There's no doubt in my mind that he not only deserves it, but logic just dictates that this is what the Reds should end up doing. And for me, he's a guy, and I think we'll have a more detailed discussion about some guys on this team a little bit later on this offseason, but I think for my money, he ranks right up there with like the best catchers that the Reds have had, not named Johnny Bitch, because nobody's ever going to beat Johnny Bitch. But I think it's really hard to pick up. Like, maybe it's Eddie Taubensee. And I think we were discussing this a little bit in our prep, but I think it's between those two guys ever since Johnny Bench are the two best catchers that the Reds have seen.
Yeah, we looked at the numbers because when you said I think Tyler Stevenson's the best catcher since Johnny Bench, I thought, oh, come on, Jeff. Have you been hitting the bourbon already? We haven't even clicked record. But then we looked at the numbers and like, well, dang it, Jeff. Probably you're almost right, maybe. But so we looked through it. We looked at Hannigan. We looked at Jason LaRue. We looked at Eddie
Tucker
Taubensee.
Barnhart.
We looked at Tucker Barnhart, and we looked at what Tyler Stevenson is doing right now. It clearly becomes a 2-horse race between Tyler Stevenson and Eddie Taubensee. And you look at OPS plus, they both have a career OPS plus right now at 105. Taubensee played 7 seasons. Stevenson's entering his 5th. Taubensee had a little bit slightly better batting average.
6th.
But again,
he's played 5. He's entering his 6th. Anyway, right. Yeah, semantics.
So we're getting to the point where it's pretty neck and neck. I said I'm going Taubensee right now because he had more seasons and he hit left-handed, and all of you right-handed people can get out of my way going with the lefty. You guys know this about me, lefty in the bullpen. But I think when it's all said and done, it is Tyler Stevenson because he's going to improve that OPS plus. He's going to improve that batting average. He's going to get him in career home runs and probably career RBIs for the Reds. Again, I'm not worried about the Gold Glove situation because I don't think Tyler Stevenson's ever going to be in that conversation, and I really don't care. Gold Glove a lot of times is a popularity contest anyway. Yes. So for me, I think Stevenson will finish with those numbers, and you're right. He'll be, oddly enough, the best catcher to play for the Reds since Johnny Bench.
And I think that is important because this man needs a little bit of help because catchers don't catch every single day anymore. That's just not a thing that happens. And who's behind him is very uninspiring. That's why we're going to advocate next why Mr. Outside Hire needs to be the guy backing him up. Did your fantasy season get off to a rough start? Bounce back with Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. And it's so easy to see why Prize Picks is #1 because you could win up to 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks. Here's what you do. You find your favorite players. You find your favorite stats. You click more or you click less, and you do that at least twice, boom, you got yourself a Prize Pick entry. And in some cases, like I mentioned, all you got to do is put together 4 of those, and you could see your money multiply a lot. Plus, they've got all kind of great promos. They've got, today they got Taco Tuesdays where certain statistics are discounted, as it were, to make it a little bit easier to hit your Prize Picks entry and get that money. Check out Prize Picks today. And anytime you feel like, maybe Joe Burrow is going to throw more yards and Jamar Chase is going to get more touchdowns, Prize Picks has you. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB and you'll get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's LOCKEDONMLB on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive that $50. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks. Run your game.
Make sure you take us with you when you can't watch us on YouTube. We're on every single podcasting platform that we know of. And if you know of one that we're not on and you want us to be on it, let us know. We'll figure it out for you. While you're here on YouTube, make sure you click that like button, click that subscribe button, click that notification bell. We want you to be with us every time we do an episode, and tell your friends about us. We want to talk Reds baseball with them like we love talking Reds baseball with you. And also that Prize Pickery, Jeff, Burrow and Chase, are you serious? I've still got a sore throat from the bungle in the jungle that you and I were
they don't
at.
play defense. They don't play defense.
Okay, that's fair. That was terrible. Oh my God. All right, back to catchers, Jeff, because you threw some Luke Maile slander there right before we went to break and just left that hanging out there. And I know that you have been diligently researching the catcher free agent market because you and I kind of both came to a consensus when we talked about this a week or so ago. I don't know. I've been in a lot of time zones since then, but I think we came to a consensus that we thought an upgrade needed to be had, that we thought they've gotten the most that they can get out of Luke Maile, and it's time for a change.
For a couple of different reasons, really. I mean, they have a team option on Luke Maile for 2025, but the team option would be for $3.5 million to pay for Luke Maile. And Luke Maile, I mean, you don't even really need to break down the numbers. He hit like way below the Mendoza line, but we know what we saw whenever he was on the field last year. It wasn't good. It wasn't good at the plate. It wasn't good behind the plate. It wasn't good in any situation. So that is something that the Reds really need to look to upgrade. And I get it. There was a whole like clubhouse team element, that sort of thing with Luke Maile, but I think that that's all reset anyway under Terry Francona. So I'm not worried about are we losing some sort of leadership aspect here? I think that vacuum gets filled by somebody else. So with that, they have Luke Maile's team option at 3.5. They also had Austin Wynns, the double machine, under arbitration. He's projected to make $1.2 million. I think in both cases, I think they deny the option for Luke Maile, or they don't pick up the option for Luke Maile, and they non-tender Austin Wynns, because there are two guys out there that I think fit this profile that the Reds are looking for. A good backup catcher whose price point's probably going to be pretty, I don't know, say attractive, but it's close to attractive for them to go after, and that's Jacob Stallings and Elias Diaz. A couple of guys that have a decent track record. These aren't young catchers by any stretch of the imagination, but they do what you want a backup catcher to do. You don't need your backup catcher to hit 20 home runs. You don't need your backup catcher to win any gold gloves, but you do kind of want him to be a little bit more defensively minded than he is offensively minded. That's what both these guys are.
I disagree with you a little bit, actually. In a backup catcher, more than any other position, I want a guy that's not a black hole in the lineup, because that one backup usually gets more playing opportunity than anybody else's backup on the team, because you're not going to start Tyler Stevenson a day game after a night game. Generally, Tyler Stevenson hasn't been starting on getaway days. Now, Francona may handle this differently, but that's how David Bell was handling it. And I think across baseball, that's the norm, at least coming out of a night game into a day game. We don't see the catchers doing that. We see them trying to protect their legs and their knees a little bit more than that. So that being said, this guy's going to play more and he's going to hit more. And I understand they're not going to have a catcher that's going to give you the same offensive production as Tyler Stevenson is. That's why he's going to be a number 2 for the Reds and not somebody else's number 1. But I want him to be able to hit a little bit, maybe, 230. 225, 230, be good for maybe 10 home runs on the year. Defensively, yes, absolutely should be as good as Tyler Stevenson defensively. There should not be a defensive drop-off from where Tyler Stevenson is. Because again, Tyler Stevenson is not a gold glove catcher. He's a better than average catcher, but not going to win any records. So I don't need a catcher worse than that to be the backup catcher. So that's what I'm looking for. So I know you've looked at this. Do any of your guys fill that bill, or does at least one of your guys fill that bill better than the other? Because I need a guy that can hit a little bit.
Give me Elias Diaz for that. Elias Diaz just finished up. He's due to be an unrestricted free agent. He played for the Padres this past season, played a couple of years for Colorado as well. He was an all-star in 2023. His career OPS plus isn't like inspiring, but at 82, it's not as if he is horrible either. I mean, he's okay. That's fine. The thing that I find interesting about him is that defensively he improved immensely last year, and he played a decent amount. We're not talking about smaller sample size, so therefore he looks better. His outs above average as a whole as a catcher was 4, so positive 4 last year. And he's coming off back-to-back seasons where he was negative, and he was negative by a lot, -6 and -5, respectively. But you add on top of that the fact that his average bat speed, and I love this bat speed metric that Baseball Savant came up with last year, his average bat speed is 73.9 miles an hour. That is close. It's not exactly, but it's close to Ellie range as far as bat speed is concerned. So you're going to look at some of the other numbers, the average, the stuff like that could come up. But again, backup catcher with high bat speed and decent fielding, that's who Elias Diaz is. And last season, he made $1 million. So we're probably talking about, if he gets a raise, it's like $2 million, maybe 2.5. It's less than Luke Maile. Looks like he could be better than Luke Maile. And you bring 73 mile an hour bat speed to Great American Ballpark, it might be cooking with gas.
So do we have a off-season free agent projection for him as far as dollars goes? Are those out yet?
Nothing yet.
They're not out yet, right?
Yeah, not yet, because he's not like one of the top 45 guys, which is where they're projecting right now. So they're gonna get down to him eventually. But I would guess, and I don't have a whole lot of knowledge about this, but my guess would be my Skyline Chili powered guess would probably be around 2, maybe 3 million at most.
Does his, you mentioned his career OPS plus being 82. He was 199 OPS plus for San Diego last year, 87 for Colorado, total of 88, like you said. Would it concern you if he got into, say, 100 games for the Reds? Obviously, he's not going to start that many games, but got into 100 games.
I think it would concern me less than if Luke Maley did, or if Jacob Stallings did. Jacob Stallings is another name that I looked at, and he's a guy that you'll remember a little bit because he played for the Pirates, actually won a Gold Glove as a Pirate back in 2021. But ever since then, he has been a negative defender. He's not been very good with the bat. In fact, last year I think was a better year with the bat than he's seen in some time. But it was more of an aberration than it was the norm. So I'm not looking at him as my favorite option for this position. Plus, he might cost a little bit more because he made more than Elias Diaz last year, and he has a mutual option with Colorado right now that I think if they don't pick it up, I think there's like no buyout or something. So his agent's probably going to be looking for what he would have gotten with Colorado.
Right. I looking at his numbers, Jeff, it's easy to be dismissive of Colorado numbers. I get it. Looking back to his Pittsburgh Pirate time, I think 100 games is the magic number. Looking his final year in 2019 in Pittsburgh, Jeff, 101 games. That's about 300 at bats rather. Slash line of 241, 296, 307. That's not horrible for a backup catcher. If he can
don't
maintain
love the 307, but yeah, no, the two. The batting average.
He's
okay.
not gonna.
Yeah.
We can't have it all. He only hit 2 home runs that year. But if he's on base, for 300 and he's batting average is 240, I'll take it.
I'm definitely not dying on the hill that the Reds must sign Elias Diaz, but I would definitely prefer them. I would be very happy.
Well, let me play devil's advocate then. Let's circle back around to Austin Wins, because if they don't go out and get somebody and you don't want Luke Maley, where would you land on? Well, we're just gonna give the job to Austin Wins.
I think from the tiny sample size that we saw, I think I'd be kind of okay with it, but I don't know that I can rely on the like double machine that he was. I say that tongue in cheek, but he had a lot of doubles based on his tiny amount of playing time. But I just feel as though there was a point this season where it could have been him over Luke Maley. And I don't know if there was a loyalty to Luke Maley behind the scenes where they're just like, yeah, we're okay with him not playing that well on the field. And we just would rather have him in the clubhouse than whatever Austin Wins would be.
I think that was about the pitching staff, actually.
Mm.
I think that was because of the comfort level that he has with a lot of the pitchers having been here for multiple years. If you look at 2023 combined totals, 2023 for Austin Wins, and he had time in Los Angeles, time in San Francisco, and time in Colorado in 2023. So split between 3 teams. He played in 51 games, 208, 268, 277. Not great. He only got into 7 games for the Reds. It feels like it was more, right? But he only played in 7 games for the Reds in 2024. But 368, 400, 579. He's not that guy. That's not who he is.
No.
So I wanted to have this part of the conversation, Jeff, because my answer is no. Austin Wins is not the guy. If you can keep him around for $1 million, $1.5 million, and he's down in Louisville as an emergency guy, I would be fine with that. but he should not be the backup catcher for the Cincinnati Reds in 2025.
No, and I'm with you on that, and I think we'll probably rehash that a little bit more, kind of look at Austin Wynns a little bit more as we get closer to the non-tender deadline. That's going to be the big point where we talk about him, we talk about some other guys that are headed to arbitration and things like that. But we've got so much more that we're getting to this week. Coming up later this week, I want to have a discussion, and we're going to get to it based on his performance from last year. Is Jonathan India on the team next year? Because I think the obvious answer is yes. But we're going to discuss what that but might be. And we're going to look at some other positions. The first base position was rough, but there was a position that was worse. And I'll leave that for the episode later on this week. We're going to have a lot of fun with this.
That's where we're going to stop. That's going to do it for this edition of Locked On Reds. Thanks so much, Jonathan India on this team. Thanks so much for making us your first listen every day. Everydayers, for your second listen, go listen to Sully on the Locked On MLB podcast. He's got you covered for all of the action between the Dodgers and the Yankees as that series looks to be over pretty soon. Man, the Dodgers are something. Steam rolling is the right word. If you want to check out the Locked On MLB podcast, just look down in today's episode description. We've got a link for you right there. You don't even have to search for it. We've got you covered. The Locked On MLB podcast is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And we will continue to be your team every day because we're going to keep you Locked On Reds every single day. Jonathan India on this team. The comment section's already on fire.
I got some thoughts.